The Catcher in the Rye is a novel written by J.D. Salinger and published in 1951. It is a classic of American literature and is often considered a coming-of-age novel. The story is narrated by its protagonist, Holden Caulfield, and takes place over a few days in his life as he recounts his experiences and thoughts. The novel has been the subject of much discussion and analysis, and it remains a widely studied and read work in American literature. The novel begins with Holden Caulfield, a 16-year-old boy, narrating the story from a mental institution. He explains that he has been expelled from Pensy Prep, a prestigious boarding school, due to his poor academic performance and bad behavior. Holden is disillusioned with the adult world and decides to leave Pensy a few days before the end of the term, feeling that he can no longer stay there. Holden decides to go to New York City and spend a few days on his own before returning home. He checks into a hotel and begins to recount his experiences and thoughts during his time in the city. Throughout his narrative, Holden often expresses his disdain for phonies, a term he uses to describe people he considers fake or insincere. He is highly critical of the adult world, which he sees as corrupt and hypocritical. Holden has a strained relationship with his family, particularly his parents and younger brother, Allie, who died of leukemia a few years earlier. He idolizes Allie and is deeply affected by his death. He also recalls the death of James Castle, a boy from his previous school who committed suicide and who Holden tried to defend against bullies. Holden's first stop in New York is to meet with a former girlfriend, Sally Hayes. While on a date with Sally, Holden suggests that they run away together and start a new life, but she rejects the idea. Holden is disillusioned by the encounter and ends the date abruptly. Holden's loneliness and frustration continue to grow as he wanders around the city. He visits his little sister, Phoebe, who is one of the few people he truly cares about. He tells her about his desire to be the catcher in the rye, a symbolic role he envisions for himself. He imagines standing in a field of rye, catching children who are about to fall off the cliff, protecting their innocence and saving them from the harsh realities of the adult world. Holden also visits a former teacher, Mr. Annalini, who offers him a place to stay for the night. During their conversation, Mr. Annalini expresses concern for Holden's well-being and suggests that he is heading for a fall. This encounter leaves Holden feeling uneasy, and he leaves Mr. Annalini's apartment in the middle of the night. As Holden's time in New York continues, he becomes increasingly isolated and overwhelmed by his feelings of alienation and despair. He spends a night wandering the streets and even tries to find comfort in the thought of his family's Christmas decorations, but the reality of his life and the world around him weighs heavily on his mind. The novel culminates with Holden deciding to leave New York and head west, presumably to seek a fresh start. Before leaving, he sneaks into his family's apartment to say goodbye to Phoebe, who pleads with him not to go. Holden realizes he can't just run away from his problems and decides to stay. The novel ends with Holden in a mental institution, where he is receiving treatment. The Catcher in the Rye is a timeless novel that continues to resonate with readers because of its exploration of universal themes of alienation, disillusionment, and the loss of innocence. Holden Caulfield's narrative voice is both unique and relatable, and his struggles with authenticity in the adult world are themes that many readers can identify with. While the novel has been the subject of controversy and censorship due to its strong language and mature themes, it remains a significant work in American literature. It has influenced countless authors and artists and has been studied and analyzed in various academic settings. Holden Caulfield's journey in The Catcher in the Rye serves as a reminder of the challenges and complexities of adolescence and the search for authenticity in a world that often seems phony. The novel leaves readers with enduring questions about the nature of innocence, the consequences of disillusionment, and the possibility of finding meaning and connection in a complicated world.